Hello folks, today we have posted a question over there in our WhatsApp group that how to hack or how to get the private variables printed out within the boundary of the class. Now what I mean by that is, let's say you have a class called user in which you have two private variables, your username and your password. Now what I mean by the question which we have given is you have to get the access of these variables. These variables should be accessible outside the boundary of your user class. Uh, Now, for that, the pretty straightforward uh, way of doing it is by writing your getter and setter method. But that is not a solution for this. Your solution should be such a robust way that if I give you any class, whether it contains a getter or setter, it will not be dependent on that, but you will be able to extract the values of your private data types. So if we try to do this, if you try to run this program, it would eventually encounter an error to us. What would be the error? It would say that your user class would contain a private variable which is not accessed outside its boundary. Now we have to do it. So let's see how we are going to do it, how we are going to achieve this particular thing. As we know that in Java we have a class called class. Class itself is a class in Java which contains your metadata of each and every classes. Now what I mean by metadata is the data about the object to which it refers or to the class which it refers. By using that concept only, we can achieve our goal of hacking private variables outside the scope of your class, or hacking private variables from another class. So let's see how you're going to do it. As told earlier, we have over here a class called user, over which we have two variables, two private variables. One is your username, another one is your password. These two contains this data. Now here is what we have our hacker class, which eventually is going to perform the operations. In order to perform the operations, what it does is you have your hackit function which takes an input of an object. Now as we know, an object is at a topmost hierarchy in the Java libraries or in the Java class hierarchy. So over there, object will be able to incorporate any class object being referred to. Over here, once it reaches these functions or once it's enter over here, we have a class object being created, and we are basically referencing to the get class method. Now what will your get class method give is the root class from where the object is being called. Your get class, if you write it and if you see what it returns, is nothing but the reference to the class where you want to point your where you basically want to point it. Now once you point to that class in your java.lang.reflect package, you have a class called field. It actually gives you a reference to all the variables where your metadata is actually referring to. Now over here, the metadata, that is nothing but our hack object, hack obj, is referring to our user class. And if you write hack obj.get declared fields, this function is going to return all the fields which are defined over here, whether that's being a private fields or that being any other field over here. As of now, we have two private fields over here. After that, it's pretty simple. What we are doing is we are iterating. Since it is a field object, it got a list of all the objects over here. So we are iterating through this particular field object, and you have to actually set this accessible as true. Now what this set accessible function do is when you declare a private type, it's being a predefined routine called where your set accessible is by default mentioned at false. So that is the reason why your values are not being able to visualize, or we are not being able to fetch those values, private values what I mean, outside the class. Once you set this accessible as true, you are able to fetch those. Now let's run this program. And one more thing, once we complete running this program, I'm going to show you how you can update those values. That means we still have the authority of updating those private variables of any class. Now how we are going to do it, just give me 1 minute. Let me comment it out over here. Yeah, so what we are doing is we have our hack private test class over here, from where we are making an object of hacker class. Our hacker class is basically nothing but the class where our main operations is written, and we are passing it, we are calling the hackit function over here with a new user object. Now what is a new user object? It is basically nothing but the class which contains the private variables. So let's see how we are able to fetch those results. It's completed successfully, and you can see the values over here. That is for username, I have it as TechDeeksha, it came as TechDeeksha. For password, I have it as TechDeeksha@123. I got the desired result over here. Now the question is, as of now we are okay when we can retrieve it. But do we have the authority of rewriting those variables? Can we anyhow modify those variables? Yes, we can. How? This would be the solution for that. Over here, we would iterate through the fields. Once we give the set accessible as true, and we have a method called set. Now that's the global method which is being written on your field class, that takes an object as a reference. Over here the object is nothing but the object of user class, and since we are calling it with field, that is nothing but the field which is it is facing now. At this point of time, it is first fetching your username. So your username would be replaced by techdiksha_hacked. Eventually your password will be replaced with the same name. The reason is I have not checked whether which field has to be updated by what. If you want to do that operations, it is nothing but you have to do check over here and to use with the get name what variable you are getting. If the variable is of username, if the variable name is username, then you have to set this one at TechDeeksha. If it is a password, you can set it to some other variables. But to keep it very simple, I have actually replaced both the username and password with the same value. Let's run this part and see what result do we get. Or let's not comment it. That will be easier for us to see. So this is what we got. We have seen that the username and the password initially was TechDeeksha and the password was TechDeeksha123. Once it has been changed, the username got is that TechDeeksha hacked and the password got also as TechDeeksha hacked. So that's all for today. Please subscribe our YouTube channel. I'll be giving the link. I'll be sharing you all the links. Over there, we will be posting each and every day or whenever we have some questions or quiz like things over there in order to help you guys to come up into speed and to crack your desired job interview. Thank you. Take care.